Roger. Ready to move out.
Hey, and welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. I am your host, Alan Batman, here at the top of the hour on a nice Monday night. Okay, I'm gonna get into a couple of things, but I had a very interesting conversation with a couple of people, and sometimes we say things that we really don't fully understand or know the meaning or actually understand the origin. Now, this one thing I'm going to talk about just briefly before I go into going deep into the deeper part of the show is when people use the term, and I'm like, I can't understand where it comes from and get a full understanding, and then we kind of make the transition to what's being said to actuality. Now, I know that, and my engineer, it's going to kind of curl his ears for a minute, but that's the fun part about doing this show. Now, he's got a sign, and I kid you not, that clearly states the no profanity zone. But I crossed the line because the fun part about crossing the line is seeing how far you can go. Okay, so anyway, having a conversation with a couple of people. And one guy was referencing something. He referenced the term shithole. I kid you not. This is where it came to. It started. And as they would, and as he was referencing something, and I, knowing me, I chimed in because if you're going to talk about something, know exactly where it stems from and how to get there. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history of where the term or where the word comes from. The word shithole comes from. Now, as I begin to go into really explain this to these individuals, and because this is the part of what we talk about intellectual, you have to fully understand what you're doing. Feed your brain. Get the full serving. Now, during wartime, this is during the Revolutionary War, Civil War, the World War I and World War II. The term actually started during wartime. Now, here's the thing. During this particular time, I mean, they had to do something with it. Okay, you're in the field. There were no bathrooms or latrines or the head or whatever else you may want to call it. So what the soldiers would do is that they would dig a hole away from where they may be or from the perimeter, because you can't go around taking a crap, and leaving it right there on the sidewalk or wherever it may be, or in the field of battle. You just can't do that. So as I'm explaining to them, this is where the term comes from, and kind of like their eyes kind of got wide. The soldiers would dig a hole. They dig a hole roughly maybe 1.5 feet deep. And what they would do is that when they would have to go, they toot their behinds right over the hole. Hence the term fire in the hole. Boom. Term shithole comes from. Then when you're done, you put the dirt back on it and then you keep it moving. So so when you think about that, and when you reference it to someone's home or a country, you kind of have to be mindful of what you say and how you say it, and then in the contents that you're saying it. So where the term shithole comes from. It comes from the term when soldiers would dig a hole, take a crap in a hole, or fire in the hole, boom, and there you have it. Now, I just thought I would throw that in just to kind of give you a little bit of a laughter for those who might have a little, just need a laugh for the day. Now, the other part, now I'm going to go right into this past week, or I'm going to say this past week, within the last 14 days, we had another shooting of an unarmed citizen killed in their home by police. This time, first we had the Amber Geiger situation a year ago. Shot and killed Botham Jean in his own home. Oh, I thought it was in my apartment. Give me a break. Moving on, she got convicted. She didn't get she didn't get the sentence that most people thought, but she got the sentence that was appropriate for for the statute of the law, and the fact that she is considered a first time offender. Now, moving on from that, now we have this other guy. This if you saw his picture, you don't get no more. How can I put? You don't get no more white supremacist racist than that guy if you ever saw his picture. His name is Aaron Dean, former police officer Aaron Dean. Now, the incident began when 28-year-old Atiana Jefferson, who was at home playing video games with her nephew. The same similar situation with Botham Jean, who was sitting at home eating a bowl of ice cream, watching television. Just people are not doing anything but minding their own business. Anyway, she was sitting there playing video games with her nephew. Her neighbor, Atiana Jefferson's neighbor, called police and said they would then called and stated he wanted someone to do a well-being check. Dispatch says, "What is the problem?" Well, her door, he responded, her door has been open for quite some time. Okay, 2 points and one. We have all have maybe have called the police to go and check on someone because something, it just seemed out of their character. Say maybe they left a window, the garage door is open and their car is gone, or their front door is open and you don't see their car, or you see their car and the front door. Just something that seemed out of character for this gentleman. Now, he called for police. Dallas police showed up. They showed up. Now, protocol would have you, or let me rephrase that. Let me scratch protocol. Once again, the media, not the media, but the department, and sometimes, and even the media will kind of assert words to kind of villainize the victim and coddle the cop. Okay. Now, how it was worded is that when the officer showed up, the word was used, a highly trained officer. Okay. Understand something. When you, if and this is what they use to try to mask the fact that they have police, that there are some police officers who have an agenda. It's not about the training. You can train a dog to do anything, but if that dog does not accept the program or it has its own agenda, all the training in the world is not going to change it. It's the same thing with policing. You can give them the best training the world has to offer, but it's ultimately up to that person to apply that. So two officers, and this is all on body cam. I'm not making this up. You can fact check this yourself. It's on body cam, and the police did a very good job. I must commend them once again. The police department did a very good job of releasing the footage of the body cam almost immediately. And as the chief of police said, this was about, I'm sorry, not Dallas, but Fort Worth. Let me correct myself. Not Dallas, but Fort Worth. The Fort Worth police chief made it clear he wants this to be a level of transparency. He did the right thing by releasing the video right away, and even press conference, the police chief said that our officer did not identify himself. He said he did not identify himself as a police officer. The chief said this himself in front of the media. He did not identify himself as a police officer, and his actions were inappropriate. Now, I know the word inappropriate is maybe an understatement, but he addressed it in the correct way. After this, he took that naturally. If there's an officer involved shooting, the officer comes off the street and he's placed on administrative leave. But after looking at the footage, the police chief stated, and he said that they gave him a choice to either quit, to either resign, or he would be fired. Now, once either one of those happens, then the DA was free to do what they wanted to do, which they ultimately did. Once he was fired, Then the district attorney filed murder charges, which this is a clear cut case. It's not. Now understand, this is not first degree murder. First degree has to do with intent. Simple murder. This murder would wind up maybe possibly being second degree because his actions were reckless. So that's the window that they're probably looking into, because you have to remember now, with murder is about assigning blame, and also not solely not and not only assigning blame, but accountability and responsibility and the levels of intent. Now, former police officer Aaron Dean of the Fort Worth Police Department was booked into jail and charged with murder. Now, going back to Atiana's situation, the video showed that these two officers went to the home, observed the door open, observed the open door, but they did not follow procedure. Dean saw someone in the window, yelled, "Put up your hands," and he discharged his duty weapon, striking and killing Atiana in front of her 8-year-old nephew. Now, this little boy is he's going to need therapy. Make no mistake about it. He's going to need therapy for quite some time. Quite some time. Now, also, it was reported that Atiana had a weapon of her own, which in Texas she was legal to have. And just like any number one of us, we see some people outside our home with flashlights, and they're not saying that they're police. If it's me, I'm grabbing my pistol, shotgun, M4, M50, my AR, whatever I may have, and I'm opening up. I'm not going to even wait to ask who it is. I'm opening up, point blank, period. I'll deal with the fallout later. But under the Constitution, you have the right to liberty and the right to protect yourself and property. Under the Constitution, this guy did everything wrong concerning the Constitution. He violated her, but not only that, but he violated her civil rights as a human being. He violated police policy. He did everything wrong. Everything. Now, the thing about this situation is that this was just basically 10 days after Amber Geiger got convicted of murder herself. This is a guy he's definitely going to the booty house. Make no mistake, and they're going to love him. He is definitely going, point blank, period, without a doubt. And there is not a jury on the face of the earth that would not move to convict. And as I said before, people are no longer afraid they're no longer afraid of the police. They're no longer afraid to sit on a jury and convict police officers. They're no longer afraid to do that. Not only that, and with the age of footage and with the in the age of video, which we live in right now, social media, and everything is recorded. There is no backtracking from this. None. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Not to get too far, I want to make sure if you want to join the conversation, or you got a comment concerning this situation, give me a call here at the studio at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953 here on iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. But now moving to this, once again, this is a white police officer killing a person of color. Once again, a white police officer killing a person of color, a 28-year-old black woman who was in the medical field, well liked and loved, sitting at home playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew. and observed people with flashlights in and about her house, and not one of them said they were police. Not one of them. See, this is the onset once again what we talked about, what we always what topic of conversation, the lack of restraint that has not been applied to some of these rogue officers. And I say rogue in with such disdain, because it is that type of mentality for some of these individuals. When there is no accountability, when there is no restraint, when there is no, hey, let me pull the choke chain back on this son of a bitch. Let me, hey, stop. If you've ever seen people walking the street uh with their with these huge pits and Rottweilers and these mixed breed dogs, and the fact of the matter is that they're walking the streets. These dogs don't have normal leashes. They don't even have belt, nothing. They don't have normal leashes. They've got them wrapped in chains. Something strong enough to keep this animal from doing other people harm. But when you loosen up the chain and let this dog get at it, have at it, get at the business. Once this animal gets started and begins to taste and gets to taste of blood in his mouth, there's no stopping him. You almost have to kill it to get it to comply. And this is the unfortunate part of what has happened to our law enforcement community. They have been taken off the leash and been allowed to go buck wild. This dude, when he and so to put it in perspective, now the neighbor who actually called the police to do a well-being check, and he spoke to the media, and he said he feels so bad. He feels so bad. He said, how does a person go from a well-being check? How does a person go from a well-being check, to ending up dead in their own home? And he just feels so bad. This man actually broke down in tears in front of the cameras, because this was his neighbor, a woman that he had known for quite some time. He had become concerned that her front door was open, which we hope any number one of our neighbors would do if they see something out of pocket in our home or in and around our home. Let me find out let me find out what's going on. And according to his story, is that the front door had been open for quite some time. Now, I have not seen the layout of the house, of what it looks like. Now, she may have been in another room. She may have thought she closed the door and had been in another portion of the house, and the door blew open due to the wind, or whatever the case may be. But that still does not give anyone the right to arbitrarily shoot someone in their own home when they've done no wrong, or to execute is the right word. And this is exactly what happened, to execute this woman. Now, to say that she had to say, and then they say, well, a weapon was, she was never a threat. And not only that, but this officer did, once again, everything wrong. The biggest mistake was not announcing his office, so this would be able. Let me back up. The biggest mistake he made was not de-escalating an unknown situation. Keyword: neither one of these officers knocked on the door, went to the front door out to say, is anyone in here? Which is procedure, which is your training teaches you to do that. This is the same thing that goes back to the Amber Geiger case, is that she observed an open door, but what did she do? She wanted to be cowgirl Sally and go in and say, hey, I got the bad guy. And she did everything wrong. Not only did she not call for backup, but she entered an unknown unit, an unknown situation, and killed the wrong person. Kill the wrong person. Here it is. This guy wants to be a cowboy. Well, I mean, it's Texas, so what do you expect? And go and does this. Procedure is that if you observe an open door, and if you are by yourself, you are to call for backup. You are to call and wait for backup. Wait for assistance. Neither one of these officers knocked on the door or call for assistance to help secure the scene because it's an unknown. Now, when this goes to trial, and make no mistake, it's going to go to trial, and whatever DA, district attorney this case happens, whoever's lap it happens to land in, this is a DA that's going to pin another gold star on his board because he's going to make an example out of this cop. And this cop here is going to get some real time. Make no mistake about this. He is going to get some real time. Real time. This guy's already, from understanding, this guy's already looking at 15 years in the gate. He's looking at 15 years minimum, which means his time will start at 15 years and up. Before he's even considered for parole, he's got to do 10 years. 10 years. And make no mistake, and I have heard the stories that Texas, that you go to prison in Texas, it's no place in the world like Texas to do time, because you're doing real hard time. Real hard time. You're doing it for real. Next to Mississippi and possibly Alabama, Louisiana, yeah, you're doing some time. You're going to do some real time. There's even some place where they even take you out on the roadway, take you to the quarry and break rocks. Yes, they do. They still break rocks. License plates. Yes, they do still. Yes, this still does happen. Make no mistake about it. But now but see, once we start making examples out of these rogue officers, and I say rogue, and I emphasize that because it has to come to a point, it has to come to an end, to where, hey, we're going to start holding people accountable. You put that badge on, you're supposed to stand for something. You're supposed to stand for honor, integrity, and justice. That doesn't mean you honor yourself. That doesn't mean you met that your integrity is what you decide it's going to be, and you are not the one to administer justice. You are the officer of the court. You are to bring the offender to the court for the justice to be administered. That's your job. That is your job. Make no mistake about it. This guy here, Aaron Dean, he's going to it's not going to end like he think, and it doesn't matter what attorney he gets. He's not getting out of this. Period. He's not getting out of this. So, we're going to take us a little break here on iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn, to pay some bills, which keeps us moving. I want to give a shout out, hey, if you are hungry, get down to Captain Hook's Fish and Chicken, 85th and Cottage Grove, 103rd and King Drive, and 15922 South Kedzie in Markham. Say, iHeart Intellectual Radio, Chronicles Ron. We'll be right back after this break.
Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
These niggas thinking they crazy out here. Net bounce. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. I feel like a superhero up in here. When it's been, they gotta hit him, gotta kill him like. New shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face. Gun up on my waist, booted and suited in them black case. I'm looking for some hood rats that I take to the back cave. Y'all lame like blank man, while I'm steady serving them like pistol on my utility belt. Like, yeah, I keep my identity to myself. Like, you don't want me to grab that thing from the shelf. Like, I call them Robin, cause that's my only help, right? Okay. Girls hit my bat signal when they know that I'm coming. I say I ain't here for nothing, now give me that cat woman. As soon as we started stomach pumping, somebody had started thumping. She jumped up and caught her breath like, did you hear something? As soon as I get near to y'all, you want me to get into y'all. I ain't trying to tease them, play with your mind like the Riddler. Girl, I'm really feeling you.
IntellectualRadio.com. Feed your brain.
Feed me now.
Hey, welcome back. Hey, welcome back to iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, here at the bottom of the hour in the Windy City. As we, before we went to break, we were referencing Aaron Dean. Now, the question came up during the break was, is this guy going to get some real time? Hell yeah. Yeah, this dude he's going to get some real, because they're going to use the Amber Geiger situation, because a lot of people feel she didn't get the right amount of time, because the district attorney of Tarrant County, they were asking for 28 years. Now, everything went now, just because the state's attorney or the district attorney, wherever you may live, asks for this amount of time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. That is at the judge's discretion. Not only that, but also understand, and we have to understand the letter. We have to understand the sentencing guidelines. Okay, when an individual is convicted of whatever crime it may be, whether it's murder, sexual assault, armed robbery, vehicular homicide, whatever it may be, if you are John Q. Public and you've never been convicted of any crime, you've never even been convicted of a parking ticket, spitting on the sidewalk, under the sentencing guidelines, you are allowed leniency in the sentencing phase. You are allowed that. Now, certain instances where it involves murder, let's say, okay, you have a person, it depends. Now, also, it depends on the seriousness of it and the heinous of it, because they have what they call a sentencing portion of what they call a heinous murder. Now, when you get if you've been convicted of a heinous murder, which means that your time automatically starts at 30 years and it keeps going up. It just that needle continues to point the opposite end of north. A heinous murder, and to give you a little bit of understanding of what the definition of heinous murder is, that the best example I can give, the fictional character Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal the Cannibal. This guy would stalk his victims. Better yet, let me give you somebody that's a little bit more realistic. Let's try Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer not only kidnapped his victims, but he drugged them, raped them, murdered them, and then mutilated the bodies. That in itself falls up under the terminology of heinous murder, which he got a truckload of time, a lot of time. Now, when we go down to the portion of murder or class X, that's automatically 30 years. You're getting 30 years no matter what, 30 to 60, and it depends. Now, in reference to this officer, and not only that, I'm a betting man, always have been. The smart money is that this dude they've already talked about starting him at 15 years. 15 years and up. Me, I'm a betting man. I'm looking at somewhere in the area. Now, remember now, as I said before, The state has recommended this, but it's at the judge's discretion because they're taking in consideration not the fact that he was a police officer, but the fact that he is a first time offender, and it's at the judge's discretion. Also, if this is a jury trial, which the district attorney, if he's worth his weight in salt, he's going to ask for a jury trial, and not only that, but he's going to ask for a jury trial. He's going to definitely make sure this is a jury trial of people of color. People of color. He's going to make sure of that, because this is going to be his shining moment to say this is what we're no longer going to tolerate from police officers. We're no longer going to tolerate this. And trust it, they're going to make a real example out of this dude. They say no, because Amber Geiger got what she got. No, we're going to really not. We're going to we going to bust your shit wide open. We're knocking you in the head. We're going to make sure that that any police officer, when he draws his weapon, he better make sure that he is within the guidelines and within police policy when he discharges it or he's acting in his office. We want them to understand that you are not judge, jury, and executioner. That's not what we're paying you for. That's not what we pay our taxes for. But do I believe this guy's going to get some serious time? Yes. I honestly believe that. Because you have to start making examples out of people to say this type of conduct will no longer be accepted. No longer be accepted. And that's going to happen. Now I'm going to shift gears. Something that kind of was, you know what? It really wasn't surprising to me. It really wasn't. But it's kind of a type of thing to where you gotta sometimes you gotta be careful on who you put your mouth on. You really do, because sometimes it has a strange way of coming back and coming around. My grandmother, rest her soul, she used to say uh, things like that. She would often tell us, as we were children, be careful what you do to people, be careful what you say to them, because what goes around comes around. And as a child, you're hearing that, you don't quite make the you don't quite make the correlation on what they're talking about. You're thinking like, okay, the hell she talking about a goddamn boomerang or something? What is she talking about? But she was talking about the circle of life, on what happens when you go out there and you throw salt on people, you throw dirt on people. You got people in your mouth that you don't even know that you're talking about, that you don't even know. So that being said, we're talking. I am talking about the one and only and the infamous and now the late Congressman John Lewis, who vapor locked the other day. I think this was Thursday. Who died? John Lewis was a congressman for the District of Baltimore. And the funny thing about that, Donald Trump made the comment, and I'm gonna go and now I want you all to think about what I said at the top of the show. At the top. This was a comment that was made by someone in Donald Trump's camp, that the district, that the District of Maryland, which encompasses the city of Baltimore, was considered a shithole. Now, think about what I just said at the top of the show and what was said. Now, I myself, I've personally been to Baltimore. Yes, I have been there. And there are parts of Baltimore. Now, remember now also, this is something. Now, when John Lewis and Trump got into the little tit for tat and back and forth about Baltimore, was Elijah Cummings? I'm sorry. Thank you. Let me you know what? Let me correct you. Elijah Cummings, not John Lewis. Thank you. See, sometimes we get so wound up in what we're doing. Sometimes we even I'm prone to mistakes, and I will be the first to say I'm only human. But Elijah Cummings, correction, Elijah Cummings. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what is going to be his legacy? What is going to be his legacy? Did he do all he can to help the advancement of black people? Did he do all he can? And these are the questions that we have to sometimes ask our black politicians. Are you doing everything you can to help us, to help at the advancement, to help get us out of this, maybe this doldrum, this mundane attitude, to help elevate us to a different position? Now, at the same time, we also have to help ourselves. At the same time, we have to help ourselves. We have to help ourselves. And the unfortunate part is that Elijah Cummings, who represents the District of Maryland, which encompasses Baltimore, said himself, well, I drive, and the thing about it, if you've ever been to Baltimore, Washington, DC is literally across, it's across the rivers. It's on the other side. The Potomac separates the two cities. It separates Washington, D.C. and Baltimore are separated by the Potomac. And Elijah Cummings said himself, he said this himself, that I drive past, when I leave my office, when I leave my home, I drive through Baltimore and I drive to Washington. Okay, there are parts of Baltimore that look absolutely like a war zone, like someone dropped a bomb in that community, and that people are living in shanties, shacks. Some of the worst. It's when you get near the wharf or near the ports of Baltimore, you start to see levels of beautification. You start to see different types of development. You see all of that, but that's only one portion of that's only one part of Baltimore, only one portion of it. You go to another part of Baltimore, and you ask yourself, who in the world would want to live here? And I've said that I because I've been there. I've seen it. I have seen it. Baltimore's biggest commodity basically Baltimore is a harbor city. It's a port city. It's an international port where everything comes in and a lot of things go out. And it's also it's a known fact that any city that is near water is a productive city. Any city. Baltimore, New York, Chicago, San Diego, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, all of that. And all of those are port cities. Port cities. Detroit. Port cities. But you have to ask yourself, what is Elijah Cummings' legacy going to be? What is it going to be? To have said that this is what I've done, but you were a congressman for forever and a day. A congressman. The key thing is that, remember now, people, the House of Representatives is the mailroom of of politics. The mailroom. That's the bottom of the barrel. And you stayed a congressman for how long? And that's going to be your legacy. The idea of anyone becoming a politician is that you want to be a senator, because a senator carries power. Carries power. 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 If you are in the representative, keyword, and the opposite word in that, representative, you're representing someone. Okay. But what do you represent? Are you pushing certain things? Are you pushing the thing? If you have a good example, if you look at the West Side, That belongs to Danny Davis. Danny Davis, who's been a congressman. Oh my goodness. And I'm not going to tell my age, but Danny Davis was a congressman when I was a teenager. Okay. What does that tell you? That's a point to where you ask yourself, what are you doing? Do you not have any type of aspirations on moving past the mailroom? If any of you've ever worked in a corporation or any type of aspect of where you have to be responsible for incoming and outgoing material, and you know how crappy working in the mailroom is. And the only way that you get out of there is that you have to kind of have a initiative to say, this is what I want to do. Hey, good evening. Welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio. Who do I have on the phone and where are you calling from?
This is Jay from Georgia.
Hey, what's happening, Georgia? What's happening? All right, I'm gonna just step to the side. Go ahead.
So let's jump in this Elijah Cummings thing first and foremost. First of all, let's understand how congressmen work, and that's both congressmen and women. So if you want to say Congress people, you only have to sit in there for 2 terms. And after you sit in there for 2 terms, you have a salary for life, you have health care for life, you have all of the rights and benefits for life. Okay? So once you get the seat and you at least maintain the seat past a re-election, it really is the easiest job you'll ever have. Because especially for a congressman or a representative, the key word in politics and as a representative is you just have to give the appearance that you are, as they say, working for the people. Now, to the slow and the halo people in the room, what that means is, as a congressperson, all I literally need to do is sponsor or co-sponsor some piece of legislation. It could be who gets to scoop up dog shit for a week. I'll sign up for that. And who do we tax for that? I'll co-sponsor that bill. Or you could co-sponsor or be the aide to a senior congressperson or senator to help them support the bill or give them the resources to help build the bill to get it introduced. That's one part of it. The second part of it is you just need to do enough to make yourself visible in the high points. So that means I do a couple of job fairs. I do a couple of speaking engagements whenever there's a hot topic. Because, Elijah Cummings did that very, very well, especially right before he vaporlocked, as he said. He was very vocal about immigration, which has nothing to do with brown people, has nothing to do with black people. And I think that he was and he will be exactly as he will be remembered as he lies and states the pompous puppet that he is. Because these politicians, especially these black politicians, have no agenda that empowers us. Their agenda is all about the pomp and circumstance, period. And the reason why it's about the pomp and circumstance is that Elijah Cummings, as the senior chair of intelligence and a few other committees, was not present or was scarcely present when they were doing the conversations about reparations. However, he didn't miss a beat when we were talking about Kavanaugh. He didn't miss a beat when they were talking about the Me Too, You Too, R2D2 foolishness. He did not miss a beat when there was any sort of opportunity to attack immigration and Trump and the economic policies that he was doing that is leveling some of the playing fields, but is taking money away from the corporations. Elijah Cummings was very vocal against that, but at the same token, as we've all seen, his very district is in squander. The same thing with John Lewis, who is in here in Georgia. and Al Johnson. I think his name is Hank Johnson.
Hank Johnson, yeah.
Here in Georgia. But this is what they do. So every year they will host a job fair and a food drive. And us being the simpletons that we are, well, that's enough. They're doing enough for our community. No, they're not. Because first of all, you have to understand that when you sponsor these job fairs, the companies make out, and the companies are fostering most of the cost. The only thing that this congressperson does is sign a piece of paper that says that the city will help you bridge that gap in economic development. It provides no finances. It provides no support team. It doesn't even provide job placement personnel. All of that is provided by the employer and the recruiting team of those companies. But here it is. These people want to sit in front of you and tell you that they're working for you, that they're adamantly your advocate in that. So again, it's smoke and mirrors. So let me go back a little further, and we're talking about the case with Fort Worth. So one thing to mention is that it was not Dallas County, it was Tarrant County.
Tarrant County,
and
right.
It was Fort Worth. Fort Worth was the actual municipality or the city where that happened. If people do have an opportunity, I would advise them to look at the footage, the body cam footage of the officers. Those officers were predators, period, point blank. And I say that because if you go to a residence at 2:00 in the morning where there is a wellness check and you intend not to do anyone any bodily harm, your approach would have been gravely different than what they did. And I really and sincerely hope that his partner, whoever that person is, I sincerely hope that he's charged with as grave of a charge, if not the same charge as this guy. And the reason being is because they both, first of all, sold into the lie, and second of all, they both intended to, whoever this person was, they intended to, as we say, execute justice on the spot. There is no doubt in my mind that when they went to their residence, they knew we're going to get us and tag us somebody tonight. And the reason being is because if you watch the footage, they never went and even knocked at the front door. They went to it, but they never knocked.
Right, exactly.
They went around the entire perimeter. They went through the garage. They went around the garage. They did everything in a predatory stance and not in any sort of provocation or with any sort of regard to preservation of life. There was no,
and that's
no intent of that. And to fire a shot into an unknown residence when you have not even given a person an opportunity to respond. Literally, he said, hands up, and the shot was fired.
That is correct. And like he said,
So,
wait, let me interrupt you right quick. Let me interrupt you. You're absolutely right, because I watched the footage myself. People, he said hands up, and just and before
he said hands up once,
and he shot. When he discharged his firearm, the words weren't even cold out of his mouth before he discharged his weapon, which then, and it goes to what you just said. This was done in, like you said, in a predatory type of manner, because and to have approached in the way that they did and not ascertain, hey, what is really going on? Like I said, at 2:00 in the morning. Naturally, these are individuals who are on something else other than serve and protect. Go ahead.
And because of that, this person is deceased. In addition to that, the Fort Worth Police Department, from what I've been told, offered to pay for the funeral. Now, that in itself is improper. That's improper because you guys are involved in the middle of an investigation into the death of a citizen. No contact should have been made and no offers should have been sent, because this is, for the most part, this is solicitation. And you knew that. See, people have to understand, these people, they don't just offer to do that because they actually care. These are calculated tactics. If we pay for this funeral, then that mitigates and limits the amount of settlement costs that we are then responsible for, because we've shown a measure of goodwill on the front end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can.
Even to the extent of this, the police force or the city of Fort Worth or any municipality can pull from what is called a Victims of Violent Crime Fund.
Right, that is correct.
They can pull from that fund to cover any and all related expenses of that funeral, and the municipality technically has not paid one dime to this family. These people are, this is a master of games. It's what they do every day, all day. There is a lawyer who gave them a complete strategy. This is what we're going to do, y'all. Don't nobody say nothing. As a matter of fact, separate yourself. And this is what we do. One. And that's how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
And we sitting around here looking like a bunch of 5-year-olds. Oh, that's so nice. Look at how nice they're doing. They really care about us.
That equates to the Amber Geiger hug.
Right. Which, as we know now, in my opinion, it's amazing how things come, around. But that's crazy. That is absolutely bananas. But she won't be reelected. That much is for certain. But that's all I have to say on the subject. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. It's as quick as short and brief. Short and brief. But he had a very good point at saying, that when you look at it from a different perspective about offering to pay for the funeral, okay, it kind of minimizes the situation. You're trying to minimize the wrongdoing of one of your own. Oh, okay, you know what? We're sorry, and we're going to take care of this. He didn't mean to do this, and that's a very, I appreciate Georgia calling in each time on the show, but that is a very good insight and good way of picking up. And we have to be mindful of that, because, like you said, these people are a master of games. And if they can do whatever they can do to minimize the damage or that they have caused or done, they will do it. They will do it. This is one of those things to where we spend all this time, or when they say 9/11, Pearl Harbor, don't forget. But when we talk about slavery and the brutality and the atrocity, we're told to get over it. It happened, get over it. But I don't hear anybody telling the Jews to get over the Holocaust, 6 million plus that were killed, exterminated. I don't hear anybody telling the Japanese after the bomb was dropped, after the atomic bomb was dropped on them twice, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I don't hear anybody telling them to get over it. So you know what? You're gonna have a real bad. It's gonna be you got a real bad sunburn. Get over it. I don't hear anybody telling them that. Not only that, but United States paid reparation to Japan for that. Germany paid reparations to the Jews for that. Okay, we have to understand. We have to understand the disparity that is given us and the preferential treatment given to others. And going back to what he said, and I correct myself, Elijah Cummings was not even present during the discussion of reparation for Black people. That's why I said what I said. What is his legacy going to be? Other than lying in state stinking until they put him in the ground. We have to start looking at things for what they really are, people. We have to open our mind. We have to unlock our minds and stop accepting what's being told to us and start fact finding, checking it out ourselves, so we are not the only ones sitting in the room not knowing and understanding. If you've ever played and I'm sure, and I'm gonna make this my last point. If you've ever been, if when you were a child, and if you've ever played the game, musical chairs or Duck Duck Goose, the whole point is that you want to be the one to always have. And it's an old saying, you don't want to be the last man standing, with the last person without a chair when the music stops. And this is something that we have spent the last 40, 50 years doing, is playing musical chairs. And we're always the ones left standing without a chair when the music. Because if you've ever played the game, I've seen people get really hostile. They will push another person out of the way to get to that chair. At some point, that's what you have to do. At some point. But I see the lights flashing in the distance and the helicopters are about to land. So that's all the time we have here for iHeart Intellectual Radio, the Chronicles of Rohn. Listen, I hope you get something out of this. And as we say, as our tagline says each and every week, feed your brain. Feed your brain. To my sponsor, Captain Hook, get down there and get you some very, very delicious food, delicious chicken, shrimp, fish, and they have some fabulous sides. I mean, I kid you not. At 85th and Cottage Grove, 103rd and King Drive, and 159 in Kedzie in Markham. And in closing, not my monkey, not my circus.
Let's go.
To the Batmobile.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.